everyone, and welcome to our CSGO podcast, 808s and Beefake. I'm Jack,
Them Thom.
and this is a special edition. This isn't our usual episode. We since the last podcast was really long, we didn't want to burden the listeners with another like 30 to 45 minutes of Cologne predictions. So this episode 7.5 is what we're gonna do it in.
Yeah, a Christmas special.
It's got it all. It's got hot takes. It's got very lukewarm takes. It's gonna have a little bit of roster talk too because there's been some changes since we last spoke.
Yeah, now some teams made some moves for the sake of content, so fortunately.
Yeah, thank God for that. All right. So before we dive into what teams are going where, let's talk about the format first. So the format for the group stage is a double elimination bracket that feeds into a 16 playoffs. So the winner of each group gets automatically slotted to the semifinals. The loser of the upper bracket final gets slotted to the quarters as the high seed, and the winner of the lower bracket final gets slotted into the quarters as the low seed. So the runner up in the group of Group A is going to play the third place team in Group B and vice versa, and then the winner of that will face the winners of both groups.
Yeah, it's like it's a weird event because it's the third biggest event of the year. Like it's everything that a major has without the title, with honestly a better format than the majors have, so it's kind of fucked.
Oh yeah. I'd also like to mention that there's only one best of one going on this entire. There's only one set of best of ones going on this entire tournament, and that's the
Yeah,
opening matches.
which you
Every
kind of need to have because you have so many mismatches. Like making Astralis play a best of three against Ents would be horrible. Like I don't want to see that.
Oh God, I'd hope for two 16-0s in a row, so I don't have to watch that.
But in the end, I think it's something like 13 of the top 14 teams in the world are all attending. Big ass land, fantastic format. Like this should show us like who is. This should ideally the best team should win. Like, and this should be like the closest thing to a major you can get.
Yeah, and if Astralis lose, we can just say, hey, it can still be their era because they can still win the major. So
That's the crazy thing. Yeah, it's still it's not quite count. Like, get fucked ESL, I suppose. Valve just don't like you anymore for some reason.
yeah, I don't understand. Like this is a better event than any Valve major just because like I think like that like one of the some of the promos that they've been talking about for this event, like they've called the Lanxess Arena the Cathedral of Counter-Strike. I don't hate it. That's all I'm gonna
Yeah,
say.
that's pretty cool. Like
Yes.
I like what ESL are doing actually. Like it's like good on them. I feel bad they're not getting the major title because it is generally fucked, especially if they could bring their format across without Valve fucking with it.
Yeah, but that'll
Like
never happen. Like
this
Valve
would be
just
like the closest we had. If this was a major, this would be like the international, more or less.
yeah, Valve hate good formats at majors for some reason. That's why we had the randomizer for so long.
God bless.
All right, so now that we've discussed the format, let's talk about the teams. So there are two eight team groups at this event. The first group, Group A, consists of Astralis, ENTS, who it is easy for, NIP, Cloud9, Fraud Sports, Gambit, G2, and Navi. And the second group, Group B, consists of FaZe, Booted, a team from Singapore, whose only notoriety is that they're coached by former 1.6 legend DSN, Renegades, Made in Brazil, Fnatic, North, Big, and Team Liquid. So, what are your general thoughts on these two groups in terms of how they're balanced out?
Um, ESL's rankings not as good as they potentially could have been. Like I feel like they should scrap their rankings and kind of just have. I don't know who you get to do it, but you need some sort of commission to do it to break it down. But in general, they are pretty good. Like they're not. I wouldn't say that. Like I was saying, their rankings aren't perfect, but it's pretty good, and it's hard to really. It's hard to put perfect groups together. Like I don't think one group's super more stacked than the other. Potentially Group A, but there's so many wild cards in it that it's hard to tell.
Yeah, in terms of like name value, I'd say that Group A is definitely more stacked than Group B, but
Yeah,
like like we also don't know how like G2 is gonna do. Like I have my doubts about how the new mouse sports lineup will perform. Like Nips doing roster moves too. But like let's kind of get into that. Who do you think is going to get out of Group A and why?
So I think what we should cross off the ones that we're all getting through. So like starting with Astralis, not really anything to say other than they're definitely the best team in the world. They pass like eye test, results test, like analysis test, like everything you can look on them. Not much to say. Very very good. And then I'm assuming you had Navi as well.
Yes.
Yeah, and Navi, it's like for me, it's that team as they are now is good enough to get out of groups. Their only problem is getting Flamey to a reasonable level because I love Flamey, but he's had some pretty bad form recently. Electronic kind of stepped up into that presence, but they and that him and Simple I think is enough to get out of the group. But they need to sort of find a way to fix Flamey because he was pretty bad those last couple lands. Um, yeah, I think they're pretty much a lock to get out. But then the third one, which I think we disagree on, is I had Mouse Sports making it out.
Yeah, I have my issues with mouse sports. So, my biggest issue with under most any circumstances, like if mouse sports kept their roster, I said, yeah, they're probably going to make it out of groups. I they have more pedigree than G2. Uh, I'd probably trust them more, but they just made a big mix up of their roster. So they've cut their support player Sticko, and they've brought in Snacks of a longtime Virtus Pro fame. They bought him out for $290,000 from Virtus Pro,
Yeah.
and in terms of like in terms of the makeup of this team, I really don't see how Snacks fits in this team, especially
So
considering he's been out of form for a while. And even if he was like even if he was pretty in form, like the roles don't line up.
um so I do have them getting out of the lower bracket to make it, so I'm not like super concrete on Mouse. But I'd say I guess the positives of this move are you look at this player they picked up and you do have a guy who has the pieces to be a superstar, but well, yeah, and you can look at it on one direction where it's like the environment he was in was so horrendous that that kind of faded his talents. But on the other hand, you can look at him and be like, he's not been that fucking good for like 12 to 18 months. Like he's been pretty up and like he's had a few times where he was quite good, but most of the time pretty bad. I definitely agree with the issue that the roles are kind of fucked because you now have three like playmakers in like Sunny, Snacks, and Oscar, and to some degree Chris J, though he's going to be doing it a bit less. Um, the crazy thing to me is that when you look at like Belo Horizonte, without Oscar there, Rops and Sunny like really shined as stars. And when you bring Oscar in, they're gonna lose more room to perform. And then you bring Snacks in, who at least from Sunny, he's gonna take some of those roles. Like I don't. It reminds me like this is why Germany didn't get through the World Cup. You have too many of the same player. That's like none of them are necessarily the problem. It's just having so many of them is the problem.
Yeah, I don't see how this team fits together. Like I would have probably liked the Snacks move more if you just bet on the upside and then like like kick Oscar because like I'd rather put my trust in that Sonny and Rops are going to get better and like grow into more star roles than relying on a 27-year-old who's probably never going to change his ways and is going to be inconsistent for probably the rest of his career. Like no matter how high the highs are, if you just can never get a respectable, consistent level from him, you're not going to win tournaments.
Uh, because so the way I'd put it with this team is I was most like in my head I most liken them to historically bashed on the podcast NBA team, the Oklahoma City Thunder, where when I look at them, it's
Trash.
like you have a very, very, very talented main star, but the direct contributions towards winning are very inconsistent and honestly sometimes non-existent, which is the big problem. Like when I look at Oscar as their main star, like he brings the floor up on that team, but he keeps their overall ceiling low. I wouldn't necessarily agree with the point that that they can't win tournaments with him. My problem is they can't progress with him because they can't consistently win tournaments. Like if we live in a non-Astralis world, they can win tournaments. It's just they would never ever be the best team in the world. There's no way. And I have a harebrained scheme to fix this team, but first I think they have to approach it from this perspective and actually ask themselves what the fuck they want to be. Because if this team decides that like, hey, being a tier one team, like not a contender for the number one spot, but like fourth or fifth, like that's pretty fucking good considering we came from just strapping this like jerry rigging this team together from nothing. Like that's not bad. Like we can ride with that. Like then honestly like it sucks to see from the outside, but I kind of can see if like an argument to be like, yeah, fair play. But if they want to be a contender for tier one, like yeah, they have to kick Oscar. I think Sticker had to go as well, but I think Oscar has to go. So even saying like even if you replace him with a player who has a lowest like a fair bit lower ceiling but is more consistent, I think that's an upgrade. Like my dream for mouse sports was you go back in time, you don't spend like 300K on fucking snacks trying to revive his career. What you do is you kick Oscar and then you go to Hellraisers and you buy a Woxic and then you kick Sticko and this one's a bit rough because you it's really depending on what your fucking transferability is. But if you can get MBK on this team instead of Sticker, that will be fantastic. It's just finding what how much it would cost to buy MBK because I don't think for any second like someone's going to buy him for 800K. Like I think there's a more reasonable number. But yeah, I think if you add those two players into this team, they would be fantastic.
I mean, we also know that Hellraisers loves to be a prison too, so I imagine that Woxic buyout isn't exactly cheap.
That's true. It's that's the problem is it really is going to have to be like a phase or something to get those guys out to get anyone out of Hellraisers. Though I will say, the main team we heard about complaining that Hellraisers was a prison was Na'Vi, who are notoriously cheap as fuck and like really really hate buying players and spending money they don't have to.
That's
So
true.
it might not be quite as bad, but yeah, I definitely see what you mean. Like, it will cost a lot to do that, and that's why, like, I would prioritize getting. I guess you'd look at that team and say, which one of these guys do we need more? And like Woxic is a super attractive player to jump in, but honestly, MBK might improve this team a fair bit. You still would need to replace Oscar, but yeah, I think like grabbing one of those two players and then like a dollar store version of the other, even if you kept Sticker, it might have been fine because I didn't hate him. You could really make this team something special. But yeah, I think we agree on the main point that Oscar has to go to make this team better. And after I just shit on them for a while, I'm going to say I think they still have enough talent to make it. I think they'll get it together. There's like that team is just, there's so many players that can go off that I just think they're going to do it. They have like enough, like I'm saying, like they have enough to be at a very, like at a great, like a really, really solid level, but not enough to be a contender. That's my problem with them. That's why they're frauds.
Listen, I'm gonna bet on listen, my hot take for this tournament is that G2 are gonna make playoffs.
Oof.
Yeah, I know. Really really hot take, huh? But like from all avenues, like I think the G2 guys have been working really hard. They've been really motivated. They obviously have the talent to do it. Like I think like at the end of the day, like their net talent is probably actually no, mouse sports are more talented, but I think that I trust in pop existence more than you, I guess. Fucking hater. But no,
I
I just
mean,
I just my main point for picking G2 is that I really don't like the direction that Mouse Sports took, and I don't know if they're going to be able to make it mesh in time. Whereas G2 have had a bit more time to like coalesce with this roster because I think Snacks is probably going to change a lot.
I think it's similar to what I was saying last week with FaZe, where them adding in a new player is a lot easier than like Astralis or something, or Liquid, one of the tactical teams adding in a new player. Like I think you can kind of copy and paste a player into mouse sports a lot easier. Like I think they'll deal with adding snacks, especially because he's just very talented. Like they are already a pretty loose team, and I think they're going to continue along that. But my thing with G2 is I don't expect much out of them at this LAN because I think they need a lot of time to overhaul that team because you're fundamentally changing so much out of those players. I wouldn't be surprised if they made it out of groups because they are a real wild card. And when you have Shox and Kenny on that team, you can do some crazy things. And I've always been a big body fan. It's just whether they can get him into that role or not. My main concern is I don't think the rust is off of Shox and Smiths yet. I think if you can get Shox going again, then like fucking anything can happen. Goddamn. But yeah, it's honestly like part of me saying that I would put if I were to put this team in, I'd take out Na'Vi because if I look at Na'Vi, I'm like I don't know. The more I watch Na'Vi, the more frustrated I get with that team because like Zeus is such a problem on this team that he's awful, but he's also burning away like all of his legacy that he's built throughout CS:GO. Because you watch the calls he makes and like the way that team plays sometimes, and it's like it feels like they're a mixed team, or it feels like they're just a bunch of players just like pugging sometimes.
Yeah, it feels like he's
Because their
phoning
mid
it,
round
phoning
play
it
is
in.
horrendous at times. Like you just see them throw like so many like 3v3s or even like man advantages because they just don't have restraint, and that doesn't even sound like a Zeus team. He's meant to be like this drill sergeant who you might not like him, but he keeps you in check and he gets you the results and makes you better than the sum of your parts. But like I don't know, man. I have so many problems with that Navi team. I just think like most of the teams I picked to get through this group was just about the talent.
Yeah, like outside of I think like those four teams that we're talking about getting out of groups, like Ents aren't gonna do shit. Gambit aren't gonna do shit either. Like Gambit's a dead team walking, but the problem is Gambit is a dead team walking, won a major, so like that's still iffy. But like this is like dead Gambit.
You know, I honestly like so at the end of my like sort of notes for this, I had C9 Gambit and Ents in like one thing where it's like there's upset potential based off just the fact that there are very good aimers in C9 and Gambit, but they're pretty fucking washed and they're dead ass teams. I don't think they really are gonna probably do much. And then I just said Ents are here for memes, like just fuck off. Like I don't
Yeah.
care. Like I
Don't
do think Nip can do something. Like
yeah.
I think because when I look at that team, I know there's that stat they haven't won a playoff best of three in like fucking 18 months, but like fuck me, that is such a fun team, dude. Like I'm a huge fan of almost every player in that team, besides probably Get right now, because I think Get Right's washed as fuck. But I don't know, when I look at that team, it's like Dennis, Rez, Lecro, and Forest. On their day, those guys are all unstoppable. Like they're gonna I think like their best chance is like they go out in like quarters. Like I really think they can make it through, but we this is the ultimate wild card team. We really have no idea what they're gonna bring because
Yeah,
the ceiling is so unreal, but the floor is like so underwhelming.
yeah, they're like Nip is going to be a team that goes as their crosshairs go.
And I fucking love it because like we're gonna get some like we're going to get some fire highlights out of this team, and that's what I want because they're not going to play great CS, but they're going to play very entertaining Counter Strike.
They're gonna play the loosest CS you've ever seen.
Yeah, like it's going to be like fucking classic LDLC days.
Except instead of CZs, they'll all just buy Deagles because they all love Deagles.
That's true, yeah.
All right.
The best pistol rounds you've ever seen. Like
Oh
they're
yeah,
never
no, those
they're
pistol
gonna
rounds are
they're gonna
nuts.
go out in groups without losing a pistol round.
You're just gonna lose every gun round, but hey, those six
Yeah.
rounds they got every map, all on the back of their pistols. All right. Do you have anything else to say about Group A?
Not really. No. I mean, it'd be cool to see. I mean, it'd be interesting to see if Mixwell can do anything in Cloud9. Like that'd be fun, I guess. But because I don't hate the guy, like I just think he needs to figure out a role, and he wasn't right. Like I don't think he should be playing in the ideally top French team, which he's not anymore, which is good. I don't know. Like let's see if he can put himself in the shop window and pull a Croman, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's about it.
Croman's playing for going over to Group B. Croman's playing for FaZe, right?
Segway boy. Yeah, yes, they just announced that he's standing in. Yeah.
All right, cool. So, FaZe and Liquid are like the two locks to get out of this group. Like they'll meet in the upper like I think they'll meet in the upper bracket if memory serves. Like or at least they should ideally.
Yeah. Because I think the two things that you need to
Yeah,
look
they're on
at
opposite
in
sides of the bracket. Like they'll meet in the upper bracket final and they'll both go through.
yeah, that's where I had them on my bracket. Um, but I think it's a similar thing to Group A, where it's I'm just looking at talent and experience, and those teams both have enough of that they're gonna just do it. It's like because I think group stages are a little less direct than playoffs. Like you don't like just because like you fuck up like one thing, then like you're going in a completely different direction. Like I look at group stages as like you just gotta get it done. It doesn't necessarily have to be pretty, but you just have to get it done. I think whatever people say about FaZe, there is still like pretty much unrivaled levels of talent on that team. Like I don't think anyone has the overall talent that that team has right now. Like Croman, I'm a big fan of. Like I honestly think he's put himself in a position where they can consider like, hey, if we want to replace Olaf, this guy's like, I don't think he's got a buyout. Like, and he's right there. And like I was saying before, like I think FaZe with a stand-in is really not too far. Especially Croman, as we've seen, is not very far off FaZe at like 100% with their fifth player. Like it's incredible what they've done with a stand-in, but I don't think adding a stand-in into this team, especially when you have the system and the in-game leader that you do in FaZe, is as hard as many other teams. Like I think Team Liquid would struggle a lot if they added a stand-in, whereas FaZe like I think FaZe is still going to fly. I still think they're going to do really well this line.
Yeah, I mean depending on how the playoff brackets shake out, like it'll probably be a FaZe Astralis final.
Yeah, I had unless like something goes because I had them going straight to semis, but yeah, I have
Yeah,
them
both those
predicted to
teams are
meet
gonna go
in the
straight to
semifinal.
semis. But let's talk about the third team that we think is gonna get out of groups because they're
Ooh,
they're meeting in
I do wanna say that quickly on Liquid that I think that they need to find a bit more of their identity. Like I look at that team and it's like they're straight communisming their way through where like everyone's given equal to the cause, but I want to see a superstar on that team. And like in a year it'll be Twist. Like I have very little doubt that Twist will be like a god in a year from now, but I don't think he's quite there yet. And it's when I'm looking at the other guys, like I think Elysian Naf, it's like neither like a Naf's is faded, and then Alicia's I don't know what's wrong with Elige. Like I feel like he's been dodging I think he's been dodging like the main star mantle on this team for a long ass time, and I don't think Nitro can do it. And
yeah, no.
obviously Taco's not going to do it, but
No.
like I think they need to find a main star, and I think they need to find a dominant alt presence because that's what's going to allow them to take further steps towards like the best teams in the world, and that's what's going to allow them to some degree rival Astralis and make it to that number two spot.
Yeah, but like with this current lineup, like as it stands, like they can't do it.
Yeah, well, definitely not the AWP thing, but I think they
Yeah,
can
no.
find that superstar eventually. But yeah, like I was saying, still very good team. Like still, like the standards we're putting on, like I was looking at them and I'm thinking like the main problem I have with them is they don't mix up their play very well. Like they seem like they don't transition from like you know how when they're playing Astralis, like they like to be a bit more chaotic than and a bit more aggressive than versus a lot of other teams, so you can
I
kind of
mean,
try and break them up.
as
My
you
problem
should
is they
be.
don't switch, yeah, which I really like, but I don't think they switch pace very well. But my point with that is that's a critique that you only give to the best teams. Like you don't give that critique to fucking like NRG or something because that's like a that's like very high level shit.
And you also don't have those expectations for NRG. Like
Yeah,
this Liquid team
yeah,
has expectations, and rightfully so, because they've assembled a very good roster.
yeah. I still think they're sort of they're meant to be the second best team in the world. They just need to figure it out because right now they need to take that off phase and they just haven't yet.
Yeah, for the good of for the good of proper Counter Strike, they need to take it off face.
Yeah, like at this point, I'm not concerned at all about like I don't think Navi or Mouse Sports can do it. So it's I think Liquid are the team who are destined to do it.
I mean, Liquid have beaten FaZe in the series before, so and
Like
like
I
the
mean, hot take, they're probably the best NA team ever. Like they just don't have the results.
yeah, it's honest. Like we've talked about this before, but it's really fucked up that that Cloud9 team won that major. Like again, can kind of just discounted like everything that Team Liquid has done.
That team was like a one. That was like a fucking that entire team. Like the everything they did was like a hail mary, and it worked. Like it's insane. Like I can't believe it. I feel really bad for Liquid having to watch that happen.
Yeah, especially since like Nitro and Elige have been to the fucking major finals before.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh well. So we also disagree in this group too with the third team that's going to get out. So I have Fnatic getting out and you have North getting out.
I so I got the paper here. I fucking I did out the bracket and I ended up with North coming out and it's listen, it's gonna happen. Like just don't think about it. I have them beating uh Fnatic in the best of one and then losing to Liquid and then coming through Fnatic and MIBR in the lower bracket to make the quarter. Like and then just getting like probably trounced by Navi. I think it was Navi that would have played. Yeah, and then probably getting smashed by Navi. Even though they probably have a puncher's chance at Navi with the problems they have, but that's as far as they'll get. Because my thing with North is I'm waiting for them to have that breakout tournament, and I think this might be it. Simply because of the scale of it and the amount of preparation that teams are going to focus on for this event. They're kind of the most frustrating team for me in all of CS because when you watch them, like their roles seem very well outlined. Their players seem like they can definitely fit those roles. Most of their players are coming into form. Like Valda's still unreal. Kiebi and Mertz of like getting it together now. AZ's even starting to get it going. Like I think MSL's system is really underrated. Like I think this is the tournament where they actually click. Like this could all blow up in my face horribly, but
As it probably will.
I think this is the one where they do it, and I think they make playoffs. Like this is like the hotness of this take is like very scary, but also very tantalizing. Like I said last week, like I think they're figuring AZ out. And I think that's going to be one of the key things is taking him from being like essentially a non-factor into being a very useful sort of backup for Kirby in a lot of roles.
Listen, here's my problem with picking North to get out of this group. Like ideally, I'd want North to like get out of this group because I think they play better CS than Fnatic, and they definitely play better CS than MIBR. But the issue is, like, I still think they have like too many inconsistencies, even at the tier 2 level, and like they're gonna have to beat like better teams to get out of this group. Like, I think Fnatic's probably better than any team they play at like these other like these DreamHack like open lands. I think that I even think that if they end up running into MIBR, like they might have some trouble just because like Cold Zero is not calling anymore for sure, and like he's just a game breaker.
Because when I look at Fnatic, like I think Fnatic will show a good level, but I'm honestly like I don't know, man. Like I have a lot of doubts about that team. Like I do think they'll transition IGLs a lot smoother than other teams because for good or for worse, like Exist system is very straightforward and that's easier to learn than like North system or like Liquids or Astralis or whatever.
Yeah, that's exactly why
Um,
I'm picking them to get out of this groups, even with a roster change that we didn't like in Draken.
yeah. Oh no, I like the Draken move to be honest. Like I don't like that they I think they killed Lekro for Exist, but like I like Draken a lot. It's just yeah, the same thing in this team. Like I think you have a lot of very like risky players. Like there's a good chance Exist gives you nothing. There's a like Draken's very inconsistent. JW has had a few pretty decent lands, but they're changing his role now, so you don't know what the fuck's gonna happen. Flusher, you can't control whether he gives a shit or not. Like Crims is really the only player you're gonna rely on, and I think North have that as well in Valder. It's just when I look at North, I think they have. I think the things that really sticks out to me is within their system, their roles are really well defined. Like I've said before, I love Kirby in that team. Like I really, really like what he's doing. And obviously a big fan of Valda. I don't know. It's like honest. Like I'm not like fucking 100% North, fucking all the way. Like I think there's definitely a chance for Fnatic because they just have the talent and a shitload of like experience. But I don't know. I think I just take North with what I'm looking at in these teams.
It's gonna be funny when MIBR goes through groups and like this blows up in both our faces.
Yeah, dude, MIBR is another fucking wild card because that team's a fucking mess. But like, I expect them to get to a pretty reasonable level eventually. Because like, how are you not at a reasonable level with Cold and Fallen? Like that trio is just so good on paper that it's insane that you're not like no one even thinks of them as a contender for this tournament.
Yeah, and I mean they shouldn't because like the results haven't they haven't shown that they can be contenders.
Yeah. Like I have them going out in the lower bracket final, but I definitely think playoffs are a possibility for them if they get it going. Like I do think Cold Zera the key is going to be making him effective because he's always going to get his numbers for the most part. Like it's very rare, even in their worst times, that he didn't get his numbers, though they were kind of empty stats a lot of the time because he had the same problem ish that Oscar had, where it's like when you're pouring resources into this guy and it's not getting you wins, like all of a sudden that's a huge fucking problem. You go from saying like how fortunate we are to have this superstar to like why aren't we winning? We're fueling this guy.
Yeah,
But yeah,
and
like I think the problem with MIBR is like there's not even like a glaring issue in this team. It's just so many different things are fucked that it's just a real mess. Like I really don't know what to expect from them at this land. Like there's just a lot of variance in this team right now.
yeah, like I don't know how the rest of the teams can react to Fallen going back to calling because like they aren't gonna get the impact that they need out of Fallen even if he's not calling. So like what's the
Mm.
point in him not calling? If you're like he's gonna be on the roster whether you like it or not. But like he you can't get it if he's not in if you can't get impact out of him if he's not in game leading at this point.
Yeah, like it's definitely better than Cold Zero leading, but his leading has been quite lackluster. Like and now's the time where he'd probably want to be doing well because Glaive is like coming in and just like fucking smashing that like like all time in game leader shit. Like he's making the argument for himself as like the best ever in this fucking game, whereas Fallen's kind of just fading away now. Like, and everyone's looking back on that past, like, like we're hearing like, oh, Cold Zera actually made this call, and there's more secondary calling and the coaching factor in. Like, there's a lot of people taking jabs at his legacy, and now like would be the time for him to prove it. I think maybe the mood in the team might not be as great, even though they have had the MIBR thing turnover. Like that whole fucking thing went well. But Stewie and Bolts, like I don't know what their mentalities are going to be like because there is a lot of murmuring that they're both dead men walking, like they're both in real danger from being cut from this team, and I wouldn't be surprised if either of them or both of them went.
Yeah, especially after the major because like Stewie's kind of just messing up the language dynamic that they had because like their communication
Yeah,
was so good and like it's really funny listening to like pro players talk Like there's this one Betway segment where it's like, what's your favorite team to play against? And Rob said SK because it's like, yeah, you can tell that the language barrier's there and that they're fucking up.
Yeah, like the one thing that they had for so long, especially with Taco, is it's very hard to quantify. Like it's kind of like a fucking intangible is like the chemistry that you have playing with guys for ages, but also the chemistry you have when just like fucking all communicating in your first language. And they had both of those things and they threw them away to like Hail Mary on fucking Stewie when all their other roster moves fell through.
And honestly, like now that NTC is kind of just like after that Belo Horizonte land, like nobody's excited for NTC anymore. I wouldn't be surprised if they get Phelps back. I really wouldn't at this point.
Especially, yeah, like the problem the other problem is when you're looking at the NTC players, like the obvious pickup if you can't get Taco back, which I don't think they can, is like you go for FNX. But
Mm,
like that's a whole other thing. So
mm.
yeah. But anyway, like
Because
in terms of this land, like I'm not like there's a lot we can do, but like it's this is a hard predictions to make for a lot of teams here because we just don't know what the fuck they're gonna do. There's like fucking six wildcard teams at this land.
yeah, but like in speaking of, but not wildcard teams at this land, Booted, Renegades, and Big. Like I have zero expectations for them. I expect Booted to go out very promptly. Uh, I probably expect Big to go out promptly as well. Like maybe Big might last like a round longer than Renegades, but like I think that like all three of those teams aren't going to put up much of a fight.
I think because when I look at them, it's I think I agree on Boot and I agree on Renegades. Like I think Boot are just not good. Like Renegades are a fucking huge mess. Despite the like clear amount of talent they have, they just seems like they're really struggling to get it together. Like I think Nifty needs a coach to just to give him a diversity of ideas. He's a very young in-game leader, despite like the fleeting quality he's shown in that role. I think Big have a small chance. Like I think they really because they've shown a pretty reasonable level of play. Especially because like I've always liked God B's systems. My problem is I don't know if they have the firepower because you have like Tabson's called off from that like crazy form he had a while ago when they made playoffs at Krakow and
Krakow,
stuff.
yeah.
Next you can't you have no idea what you're going to get out of next a
Are
lot
you
of the
kidding me?
time.
Next at Cologne, he's gonna get like the biggest stage fright of his life. He's playing in his home
Though you're not
country.
playing in front of the stage in the group stage though.
Oh yeah,
I'll give him like yeah like when you get him on the fucking stage, he's gonna probably not do very much at all.
but he
Um,
won't get to the stage, so
yeah, that's true. But Smoothie has actually been really good in this team since they picked him up. Like he's definitely offered the firepower that they lacked, or at least an increase on it. But I think yeah, like overall, I don't think the firepower is great because my thing is they're playing Team Liquid first, and they probably have to win that game because if they lose that, they're immediately thrown into the lower bracket where they're going to have to play like Fnatic. They're going to have to play. They're
North
probably going to have to end
MIBR.
up playing like MIBR, North, like something like that. Like I don't think they can get through all those teams, but I don't think they can beat Team Liquid. So
Yeah, even in a best one,
I
like
will say God might have something up his sleeve, just like smashing the demos and shit. And I think Liquid are a team who might be abusable, though it's going to be very hard because like you might be able to read them, but like, what do you do when like Twist just like rolls around a corner and blows your head off? Like that's the fucking thing you can't really overcome.
yeah, like it's like it was like watching them like Astralis against like play against Astralis or Mirage where they just win every retake just because just they get like a Nitro Twist and fucking NAF just get headshots and it's over.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else to say on this group? Because I
Not on them. No, I think we can go to playoff predictions.
all right. So the obvious playoff prediction winners. Astralis are gonna win. Let's just get that out of the way
Yeah.
first.
I think regardless of who we have getting out, we both have the same semifinals, which is like we both would have Navi because I have Navi beating North. You'd have Navi beating Fnatic, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and
And
then
then we'd
so
have
if
Team
Navi,
Liquid beating like Fraud Sports or Team Liquid beating G2. So like we're gonna have the
yeah,
same semis.
like I think there's again like real punches chance in all those because the like Team Liquid and Navi, particularly Navi, are flawed. But yeah, I think we end up with the same semis, which is yeah, FaZe, Navi, Astralis, and Team Liquid, and then yeah, we probably end up with a FaZe Astralis final.
I will
I
say
think it's a
like
best of three.
they're all best of threes, I think. Like
I'll check if
I
I
think
don't
for the
actually
format that I saw, I don't think that's a best of five final.
might be. Actually no, yeah, it is a best of five.
Oh fuck. God damn it.
Yeah, which
I mean, at
yeah,
least they give like
I'm so torn on best of fives, man. Like I like a lot of CS, but I also don't like the way it warps, like the way it makes it have to be kind of an endurance challenge, and the way it kind of warps the map pool.
yeah, I don't like
I
the
don't know,
way
it's
I don't
just
like
me.
what it does to the map pool either.
But I mean, regardless, like I think it's the same thing they're going to have going through Liquid. It's just Astralis just have a phenomenal map pool and the level of play they have. I think Team Liquid kind of blew their chance at the final of VCS, which was revealing that hey, we're actually fucking really good on Dust 2 now, and they didn't close that game out, and they. Because I think a lot of people would say, "Oh, they could have closed out on made overtime Mirage." Like I think that like they didn't deserve to make it that far in Mirage, like we said. I just think Astralis are going, especially because they won't meet Liquid most likely until the semis. They're gonna have a really good idea of what Liquid's map pool is, like their map pool. Like fuck me, they might just turn up and they're insane on train now as well. Like I don't know what the fuck Astralis is gonna have in their locker. But yeah, I just think they have too much quality, and then them like they can play any map in the fucking pool. Like I just don't think you can contend with that right now.
They've also taken more time off than like FaZe and Team Liquid.
Oh yeah, this will have been their priority even when they were preparing like a few months ago. This is the land they would have kept their eye on. Like they're gonna have. That's the crazy thing is like you watch how well they've done and you don't even think they've shown everything, and they're going to have new things just for this land.
Yeah,
Like I think it's crazy to predict anything aside besides Astralis to win.
yeah, like I don't like I mean there is a world where FaZe wins just because like they could do that thing where they just go absolutely like nuclear. But even
Yeah.
then, it's not replicatable enough to where you anyone would feel comfortable picking them to win.
Yeah, and even then, it's like when you're looking back on how they did it before, it was like at IEM Sydney final where they edged the final with everyone going nuclear, and that was against a still fantastic Astralis, but honestly, Astralis have improved since then. Like yeah, I don't think they can realistically do it. Like you're saying, we kind of come back to this point where it's like they have a puncher's chance, like everyone does. Like I think Navi could beat FaZe. I think North could beat Navi. Like, but yeah, I think it would be crazy to predict that.
Yeah, you just like listen. Like also, like when FaZe beat Astralis at IEM Sydney, Device like had a flare up, which is pretty routine for people who have IBS. And speaking of someone who just had a flare up, the Korean barbecue I had last night just wrecked me, and it's like
Oof.
it's put me out for like this entire day. Like I've just felt like shit the entire day. So like I feel for you, Deva. I feel for you. I'll give you a pass on that one.
Just like as soon as they pick up CS, the Koreans will wreck him. The Koreans have wrecked you.
Yeah, exactly. It's only a matter of time before the Koreans discover that Counter-Strike is the best game.
Until us, yeah, the us whiteys have to appreciate the time we have left in the one esport that yeah the Koreans haven't dominated yet.
Well, I mean, they also haven't dominated fighting games. Like the only, I
Yeah,
think the
but no
only,
one wants to dominate fighting games.
mm, don't listen, dude. Dalesy might come after you on Twitter for saying that. He's in hard right now. Like
No,
he's going to locals again. Like he gives a shit about something esports related again, which is incredible.
I'll leave my fighting game takes for off the podcast, I suppose.
Mm.
But yeah, it's I'm trying to think if there's any other really interesting series as far like do you think that like what do you think about that Navi phase semi-final that we believe is probably happening?
I mean, I really hope that Simple goes off and makes it interesting, but like I think that like Nico and Guardian of like I don't think that Nico and Guardian are gonna have any problems. I think they're gonna be just fine. And as I've said before, that Nico Guardian team can like win you any tournament that Astralis isn't at. I think it's probably gonna be too much for Navi, unless unless they figure out a way to shut one of those two down. It's the only way I could see Navi winning that.
I think there is a potential mistake where FaZe do something crazy, like they overrate their train. Like I think if you give Navi Mirage at any point, or potentially Overpass, and they overrate, and then FaZe overrate how good they are on train, and give that to Navi, and then Navi have an upset potential. I think they can do it, but yeah, it's going to be really tough. Like Simple can beat Simple can like fucking completely change a series in his favor because he's just absolutely unreal. But yeah, I think it really depends on the maps, and it really depends on what mistakes FaZe potentially make. And like I was saying before, if they can get Flamey going, like you really do have a shitload of firepower in that team. But yeah, I think it is going to need to have FaZe slip up to some degree, whether that be in the server or in the map veto.
Yeah, like straight up, like Navi just can't contend with FaZe. Like there's got to be something that like they pull that'll give them an advantage, or maybe like let me put it this way. I don't think FaZe will not show up in the semifinals of a huge tournament like this. Like
Yeah, that's
they
probably true.
won't slack off. I don't think.
Because yeah, it's I don't know. I'm also thinking they could probably win on Nuke as well. I think it really depends on what map pick FaZe take. Because I think if FaZe take Train or Mirage, like that would be crazy, and they really could do that. Or even more likely, they let Navi have both those maps. Like I think those like that Mirage Nuke Train, are probably like I guess Inferno as well, but I doubt they're gonna let Inferno through.
One of the things that I'm a little bit intrigued on is like how much is FaZe going to play Dust 2 this tournament? Because like they have two of the best Dust 2 players ever in Guardian and Nico. Like I don't think anyone would dispute that take. But like how much are they going to play it? How much are teams going to ban it against them?
I think a lot of teams will be willing to play it against them just as like a risk. Like I don't think like yeah, because I'm looking through it because like all the lower teams, a lot of the time you risk Dust too because there's more room for upsets on that. Um, and then the better teams like Astralis and Liquid are extremely good on it. Like I don't think those teams would necessarily ban it against them. Definitely not. But they'd leave it in. Like if FaZe want to pick it or leave it till the third map, I think it'll like there's a good chance it's available. But yeah, I don't know. That's definitely a map they could build on.
But like other than that, like I'm gonna have a hard I would have a hard time picking Navi against Navi over FaZe.
Yeah,
I just
yeah,
don't see it.
yeah. Like I definitely think there's a reasonable shot for Navi, but like yeah, it's you have to pick FaZe as the favorite there, definitely.
All right, do you have anything else to say about this tournament?
No, yeah, I think it's good. All glory to our leader MSL.
And all glory to our true leader, Existence.
Our two dads.
I don't know if I want to say MSL's my dad. Like I'll definitely say like Existence and Glaive can be my dads.
Yeah, okay. Like MSL can be like the stepdad when the real dads like broke up for a few years.
He's just the rebound.
Yeah.
All right, this has been a wonderful episode of our two gay dads. Thanks for tuning in, everyone.